1 hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Meteorologist Steve Williams.
Very warm and humid. It'll be partly sunny today. The high at 86. Clouds warm and humid. Shower and a thunderstorm around late tonight, low 67. Some rain and drizzle tomorrow morning. Otherwise a cloudy, cooler day. The high 69. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
73 at O'Hare. Next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by CharlesEquipment.com, keeping you powered up no matter what the conditions.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Our country will have more presidents, but principals, well, we just get one crack at those. For those who want to put America first, it is critically important at this moment in the life of our country that we all, here and now, do just that. Trust me when I say you can go elsewhere for a job, but you cannot go elsewhere for a soul.
Well, that's very deep thoughts with Dan Proft.
Well, those aren't my thoughts. Please do not ascribe those to me. Those are the poignant words of one former Arizona United States Senator, Jeff Flake. Jeff Flake, since leaving the Senate, has gotten into the soul-saving business. Are you concerned for your eternal soul by your support for President Trump, your opposition to his removal from office? Jeff Flake is concerned for you. 312-642-5600, Turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, Turnkey.pro text line. So there's a never Trump Republican perspective of sorts.
Yeah, and the former, senator made a bold claim last Thursday when he said at least 35 GOP senators would privately vote for President Trump's impeachment.
Well, you don't get to privately vote for anything. You got to publicly vote. You got to man up. If we're in the soul-saving business, who would need to do anything in private? Stand up and be counted, wouldn't you say? Now, interesting, there are a few Democrats, actually, who are not rushing headlong into impeachment. One of the more measured Democrats you're going to hear from, and there's not a lot to choose from, is a representative from Texas, Edie Bernice Johnson. She was on, one of the fungible cable news networks. It really doesn't matter. She had this to say about President Trump's impeachment.
I agree with a lot about things that I've heard, but I have also my own thoughts. I'm elected from District 30, Texas, and I represent those people. And I have to depend on myself to make sure that when I cast a vote, it is mine. It is mine based upon the facts. And I will do that when that time comes. We have very able leadership in all of the committees that are looking. I hope we'll consolidate that so that people can really understand what the facts really are. I don't want to get into a situation where we're doing more confusing than we are clarifying. I want to be certain that we have explored. Impeachment is very serious. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a hard mountain to climb. Even after we impeach, that's an indictment. It has to go to the Senate for the trial. And right now, I'm not even certain that we can even get the Senate to even address the issue. You can look at me and tell that I'm very concerned about rushing to judgment. I've been a victim of that kind of thing. But I do think that we have the capability of justifying and clarifying all that the document has shown.
Okay, well, at least that's a measured response, and there's a desire to actually gather evidence and work towards a conclusion, not have a conclusion and work backwards looking for evidence. It's a big difference in approach. Yesterday, President Trump was asked about the whistleblower.
Yes.
And he had this to say.
The statement I made to the president of Ukraine, a good man, a nice man, was perfect. It was perfect. But the whistleblower reported a totally different statement, like the statement, it was not even made. I guess statement you could say with call. I made a call. The call was perfect. When the whistleblower reported it, he made it sound terrible. And then you had Adam Schiff, who, even worse, made up my words, which I think is just a horrible, I've never even seen a thing like that. Adam Schiff, representative, congressman, made up what I said. He actually took words and made it up. The reason is when he saw my call to the president of Ukraine, it was so good that he couldn't quote from it because there was nothing done wrong.
How good was it?
Perfect. So Adam Schiff decided, I can't let this happen. So let me make up. Do you ever hear of this one, Gene? Do you ever hear of anything like this? So Adam Schiff made up a phony call, and he read it to Congress, and he read it to the people of the United States. And it's a disgrace. This whole thing is a disgrace.
The whole thing is a disgrace. Yesterday, some new developments that were reported in breathless fashion, but I don't know exactly. I mean, I know why, but if you actually scratch just below the headline, it would prompt some questions about how worked up you're supposed to get. For example, the report from the New York Times that President Trump talked to Australian Prime Minister Morrison about assisting AG Barr with the investigation into 2016 that is ongoing by U.S. Attorney Durham. This is a publicly announced investigation. There's, I don't know why this is a big deal. Also reported that AG Barr talked to foreign service officials about the 2016 investigation as well. And then the last big item in this, the way it's being
huge.
reported, late breaking developments. And so Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, was on the July 25th call with Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. I mean, he is the Secretary of State. We know that there are many people on calls like that with foreign heads of state. You would think your Secretary of State would be sort of at the top of the list. It was suggested that Pompeo had misstated or misrepresented that he had been on that call. And you go back and look at what he actually said on This Week with Martha Raddatz filling in, and he did nothing of the sort. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Sean Davis, who is the co-founder of the Federalist, Federalist.com. Sean, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, Sean, I just want to give you the opportunity before we get into the sum and substance of this that to save your soul. Jeff Flake, trust me when I say you can go elsewhere for a job, but you cannot go elsewhere for a soul. So, Sean, if you'd like to repent on our show, Jeff Flake would be willing to listen.
Well, yeah, thankfully Jeff Flake is not the Redeemer tasked with redeeming my soul. So now I think I'll pass on that.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it interesting sort of the how the coverage was yesterday with respect to some of this new information about communications with the Australian Prime Minister, about Barr communicating about an investigation that he's outsourced to Durham, about Pompeo being on the July 25th call. I don't know why we're supposed to be frenzied about this information.
Well, I think what we're seeing in action right now and watching in real time is the utter corruption of the left-wing media. They do not tell the truth. They are not honest. They are not good faith brokers. They are interested in one thing and one thing only, and that's in destroying Trump in order to get rid of the inconvenient results of the 2016 election. They simply don't care about half the country. They don't care about the electoral college. They don't care about the constitutional foundations of the country. They are out through hook or crook to completely tear down the institutional and constitutional foundations of this country, and they simply can't be trusted.
All right, but yesterday they were suggesting Trump may have added another impeachable offense because a reporter asked him, do you know who the whistleblower is? And they feel that he answered that they're trying to figure out who the person is. Is that harassing the whistleblower?
No, I think it's essential to know this person's story and for this person to come out and testify in open before Congress. This idea that we are going to go and completely invalidate the results of a presidential election because one person took it upon himself to go and accuse the president of treason, I think is absurd. The idea, by the way, that also we're going to allow a spy. Remember, this person works for the intel community. We are going to allow a spy to anonymously peddle false charges against the president, and no one in America gets to know this person's credibility, no one in America gets to know this person's background, and no one in America gets to question this person even after this person filed what we know was a complaint riddled with errors and false statements. That is absurd.
Well, according to the whistleblower's attorney, that he fears for his client's safety, he said certain individuals have issued a $50,000 bounty for any information relating to our client's identity. And some see this as a violation of federal law that President Trump is still talking about the whistleblower.
Well, it's interesting because this same attorney is out there offering to pay whistleblowers who will leak any dirt about Trump. So it's interesting that payoffs in one direction are bad and payoffs in another direction are awful. The fact of the matter is this is the same playbook the left always uses, and it's insanely similar to the playbook they used on Christine Blasey Ford,
Absolutely.
the false accuser Brett Kavanaugh. They trot out an anonymous accuser, they build up her credibility, then they say, you know what, if you want to question this person, you're actually a denier and you're a survivor abuser. This is how they wall off their hand-picked accusers from any scrutiny of their claims. So no, if this person wants to take down a president, he or she needs to go testify in open before Congress about who they talked to, when they talked to, what leaks they got, and then Congress and the American public can decide what they think about this person's accusation.
And the Blasey Ford comparison, the same thing. Her public safety, her safety has been threatened. She's under, lock and key. She's under guard because she got a text message or a call. The calls and text messages and the comments that Brett Kavanaugh and his family suffered, that's not a particular concern to anybody or shouldn't be. You're right. It absolutely is right out of their playbook. And I wanted to get back to something you wrote about in the Federalist, a good piece last week, that detailed some of the things in the whistleblower complaint that are just factually incorrect, or at least they're at odds with the transcript of the call that now everyone has seen. So that's one issue, and that hopefully will be the subject of inquiry when and if the whistleblower appears before the House Intel Committee, whether behind closed doors or in public. The other matter, which you've also written about, do we know any more about exactly when the intelligence community changed the protocol for whistleblower complaint from requiring first-person knowledge to not requiring first-person knowledge?
So that is a fascinating question. Yesterday afternoon, after days of stonewalling us, the Intel Community Inspector General finally fessed up and said, yes, you know what, we completely did change the forms. We did change our policy, and we did it in response to press inquiries about this particular whistleblower. So it's fascinating to me that there's an entire left-wing media apparatus right now out there willing to say without any basis or evidence that the ICIG didn't change anything. And yesterday, the Inspector General admitted the changes. They admitted they were done recently, and he came up with an incredibly bizarre excuse for it, saying, oh, yeah, we were worried that on the previous forms, our line that said firsthand evidence required might have led people to mistakenly believe that firsthand evidence was required. So we removed that. Right. And by the way, we did it because of press inquiries about this in August. And what's shocking about that is the press and the public didn't know about this particular whistleblower complaint until September. So either they're not telling the truth or somebody was illegally leaking details from that whistleblower complaint to the press and potentially to Adam Schiff back in August, which would be an even bigger scandal.
So they changed the rule specifically so this whistleblower complaint could be filed and taken up by the IG and generate all of this heat.
That's an open question. They claim that this person used the old form that said first-hand information required. But what's odd about the timeline is this particular complaint was rejected by DNI, saying this isn't an urgent concern and Congress doesn't need to know about it. It was rejected by DOJ, and they said this isn't an urgent concern and Congress doesn't need to be informed about it. And yet the Intel Community Inspector General on its own said, actually it is super urgent and super credible, and so we have to tell Congress. And so that IG is going to have a very interesting time when he appears before the House Intel Committee later this week, because he's going to have to answer some very uncomfortable questions, judging by his agency's stonewalling.
Can they change it back to what it used to be, that it has to be firsthand knowledge?
Well, that won't impact this investigation now, will it?
It's going to be more.
That really is.
Shocking.
That's just remarkable. Now, Hillary Clinton has weighed in on this too. I mean, she has some expertise in personal enrichment from foreign governments leveraging her public office. I want to get to the Joe Biden piece of this too, because a lot of Republicans are doing this, repeating the press's pat line that President Trump in the conversation with Zelensky was digging for dirt on Joe Biden, rather than just describing what Joe Biden did as a per se conflict of interest and suggesting per se conflict of interest involving the sitting vice president and a foreign actor to benefit his son should be investigated.
Right. Well, to me, the most interesting aspect of that transcript wasn't the reference to Biden at the very end, like, hey, can you check out this prosecutor thing with Biden? Biden said he did this. It looks shady. It's the previous section where he says to the president, you know what, and he was talking about Barr and Durham's investigation of foreign meddling and FISA abuse in 2016 and 2017. And he said, hey, we're looking into this. We need your cooperation on it. We're looking into the servers. We're looking into some other things. We need you to cooperate. And so what's happening now is that request is what Democrats are saying impeachable, which means they are saying that a U.S. president asking for legal cooperation from an ally to figure out who meddled in our elections is impeachable, which I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. Did we not just go through a multi-year special counsel investigation to figure out foreign meddling in our elections? But suddenly now that they can't use that to hang around Trump's neck, they're going to say it's illegal. I mean, the corruption here from the left and from the Democrats and from the media is stunning.
Well, wait, also, too, for the first 2.5 years of his tenure, he was a Putin stooge. He was a stooge of Russia. Now he is colluding with a Russian adversary in the new Ukrainian president.
Right, and it just shows how willing so many in media and the left are to play the game. There's an ongoing theme in the book 1984, where the government there, INGSOC, will on one hand say we've always been at war with East Asia, and then immediately the next day, if circumstances change, they say, oh no, we've always been at war with Eurasia. And that's exactly what the left is doing here. They're saying, oh, Trump's always been in league with Putin. And now it's, oh, Trump's always been colluding with Ukraine. It's nonsensical.
We're all under the spreading